The corridors of justice, like any other workplace, is not immune to sexual harassment, and no statistics exist about its prevalence in the judiciary. But a newly announced sexual harassment policy by the country's first female Chief Justice, Mandisa Maya, could change this.
It's normally about power relations, and people do not complain or report sexual harassment that freely. So it's true, we do not have the stats, but it is something that we must deal with. That is why in the policy itself, we distinguish between a report as well as a complaint. So in other words, a victim may just lodge a report so that it is something that we know is happening, and therefore we will be able to keep the stats.
The JSC's Judicial Conduct Committee would usually be the first to assess formal complaints on sexual harassment. It can refer matters requiring further investigations to the Judicial Conduct Tribunal, which can make a recommendation to the JSC. If found true, a recommendation of impeachment may be made. An example of such a tribunal is the one investigating allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge. A determination is yet to be made in that matter, which could set a precedent. The policy applies to external people interacting with the judiciary, as well as internal members themselves.
It's already operationalized in the sense that the policy itself enjoins not only the heads of the high courts, but also of the magistracy, the Magistrates Commission, the Judicial Service Commission, to make sure that periodically reports are filed about any incident or lack thereof of sexual harassment, firstly. Secondly, the policy itself was sent to all heads of court in order for them to disseminate it to members of the judiciary, both in the high courts as well as in the lower courts. So they are all aware of it.
The new policy will create concrete steps for people to follow.
The policy is really, very clear on, which is this question of, what happens when it's a very junior person who's the subject of the harassment. It's very difficult under those circumstances to speak up. And I think for various reasons, also just you're worried about your job. And I think this policy indicates that there will be mechanisms that you can follow, which don't necessarily mean that you have to confront the person who's harassing you. And I think that's really useful, because you're then in a position where you can do something without having to maybe challenge your boss, and not just your boss, but the leader. In that example would be the leader in a division.
Judges Matter has praised the policy for its flexibility and innovative approach. For News from Africa on Channel 405, I'm Mnisi in Johannesburg.